The bots are coming. The bots are coming. Basically, that's all we've heard for the last 6 months. But it really is the start of an AI PropTech revolution. Now, many of you may think that the bots are here to hurt us, but I will contend that they're actually here to help us. But one thing's for certain, if you don't run towards technology, technology will run over you. So let's just embrace it. Why now? Well, technology was nowhere. Technology is now here. I've been in this industry for over 2 decades, and I've seen more changes happen in the last 3 years than in the previous 10. And I think we're going to see even more monumental changes in the next couple of years because I think we're at the cusp of another major paradigm shift. The last one was going from print to digital. And with digital, it opened up a whole new realm of opportunities with prop tech, which consists of construction tech, viz tech, visualization tech, martech, sales tech, and fintech. With construction tech, you're seeing 3D printed houses, manufactured houses, off-site modular homes. With viz tech, which that's what we started in as rendering house, we evolved from pen and ink drawings and watercolor paintings to 3D computer models, virtual tours, and even augmented reality. And as we continue to improve our interactive content in 2020, we made a new goal of it as a software company to encompass MarTech, which is marketing technology, which allows the consumer to interactively design and price and visualize their homes online. As the industry moves toward e-commerce, MarTech naturally extends to sales tech, which brings the salespeople online to engage with their consumers, as well as bringing interactive content to sales center kiosks. As sales tech introduces buy online, it naturally touches on fintech, financial technology, which incorporates mortgage lenders and insurance companies. Fintech is naturally tangential to the major prop tech industry. But now we're entering a whole new paradigm with artificial intelligence, which will transform everything because now we can utilize virtual assistants to help consumers find, design, experience, and buy their new homes online. As I always say, with AI, we can have robots working like people, so we don't have people working like robots. So, why is this AI paradigm shift so important? Well, it's an indication of a market evolution to a tech revolution. So, what am I talking about? Well, let's use an example that we all are familiar with the Netflix and Uber stories. Way back when, we used to have VHS videotapes. And when that came out, there was a huge demand. So, a lot of people went out and opened up video stores everywhere. It was very fragmented. So, a large corporation like Blockbuster was able to come in and using their brand and their purchasing power be able to open up Blockbuster video stores everywhere. That was all great until the slimmer mailable DVDs came out and Netflix saw an opportunity there. So you didn't have to go to the video store. You can receive your DVDs in the mail and then mail it back. That was all great. And even Blockbuster emulated that with their own mail in DVD program. So that was part of the natural market evolution as you start to consolidate the market with better processes and business strategies. But then what happened was there was a tech revolution where Netflix created streaming. And with that, you didn't have to even mail in a DVD. And because Blockbuster couldn't follow with that, instead of just a continual slow market evolution, overnight, Netflix took over the market. And so now, instead of 9,000 Blockbuster stores across the country, there's only one left. And that's one in Oregon. I think it's a museum. And Netflix's CEO says, once your primary role is trying to save a business, you are dead. And Blockbuster was reeling, trying to save their old business. Same thing with the taxi industry and Uber. In New York, there was 50,000 taxis everywhere. And then they try to protect it by monopolizing things with medallions to say that, you have to have a medallion to operate, which limited supply. But then Uber comes along with this technology, and now instead of hailing a taxi, your Uber pickup rideshare comes to you and picks you up wherever you are, anytime, anywhere, anyhow, with all your pricing knowledge, and everything is transacted online. So that's an example of how a market may slowly evolve, but overnight with technology, it could be totally transformed and disrupted. So, why do I think that AI is going to be so disruptive? It's not just that it's going to transform the world and everything that we do, but I think it's going to have a huge impact on new home sales and marketing online because I think it's going to disrupt a stage of the sales funnel that has largely been untouched for over 2 decades. There's been a lot of technologies that have focused on being able to design the home online, experience the home online, and even buying the home online. But the top of the sales funnel, where you're attracting the audience, which is the first contact between the consumer and the seller, has largely been dominated by Google search. Lots of businesses and business processes have been built around Google search and SEO. But if virtual assistants now come in to assist the buyer to help them find the builders, plans, and communities that meets their specific desires, needs, and constraints, it will disrupt Google searches. And by disrupting the traditional search engine, it will now dominate the rest of the sales funnel as it continues that online conversation. So there have been three major MarTech paradigms in our industry over the last 3 decades, and let's discuss them. It's print, digital, and now artificial intelligence. And they've had big impacts on the way we're going to do marketing for new homes. First of all, with data, with print, remember the old file cabinets? All your old brochures and everything were stored in local file cabinets and maybe your hard drive. And it's really about storing information. With digital, we centralize all that data in the cloud so you can access it from anywhere. But it's really about having data for knowledge so that you can have basically all the knowledge at your fingertips with the internet. Now, with artificial intelligence, you have all this data that's decentralized across a neural network. The neural network has all this data in different data clouds that it can be used to machine learn, which now creates artificial intelligence. The other big impact is on the channels. With print, you had these mediums like newspapers and magazines. So all the collateral was all very segmented and contained. With digital, it still was pretty much separated because they just digitized that information into like websites, which is the primary marketing channel for new homes, but they're all disconnected. With artificial intelligence, in that neural network, we have a cloud synced data. So all that data is up to date. It's all connected and it's omni-channel. That means it's across multiple channels, your sales center, your portals, your websites, maybe even social media. So this affects your audience. With print, because you're in controlled prints, your audience is controlled. You know who you sent it to, you know when they received it, what they looked at. Everything was generic, everything was static. With digital, you had limited control. You put out this content, but you didn't know who was going to look at it. You know when they were going to look at it. You don't know if they're going to click on it. You may have a target audience and target time, but it was still somewhat uncontrolled. But with AI, you have an unlimited audience reach because the AI is looking across a large neural network to pull up just those content that matches your specific inquiries and needs. So this affects the way you search for that information. With print, basically consumers had to go and look up classified ads like in newspapers or when they get newspapers, or they have to pick up brochures. So it's really dependent upon manual effort by the consumers. With digital, we digitize that so they can sit in the comfort of their homes and search with a few keywords, but they had to speak like machines. They had to speak in very broken, classified words so that the search engine can then go and look up those classifications. With artificial intelligence, you can use multimodal prompts. And what that means is you don't have to just type in something. You can speak to it. You can use text, conversations, search engines, even use video and photography to communicate with the AI. And this affects your messaging. With print, because the consumers have to pick up everything, it's very one way communication. There's not a dialogue, and it's a very set communication. Digital, still very limited conversations because everything was pre-generated, but it allowed a little two-way communication. Now you can start to use maybe chats, but it's still very algorithmic. With artificial intelligence, you can have that two-way communication in a multimodal format, but it's open-ended. That means every conversation is unique, all the content is unique, it's personalized, and there's not a set of multiple choice responses that usually ends up going offline. This affects your content. With print, your content is all generic. It's all static because it had to fit on an 8.5 by 11, and it was, printed out in thousands of copies. Digital basically emulated that. It just took all that generic content, created thumbnails, just put them on your website. It's still pre-generated, started to become a little bit more personalized with web apps where you can start to design it, but it was still largely static content with a little bit of interactive. With artificial intelligence now, that content is dynamically generated and it's personalized around the consumer's specific inquiries and requests. And therefore, that content has now evolved from dumb, static, generic content in print and largely digital as well to now smart, interactive content. So it has intelligence associated with it. These paradigm shifts is now shifting the control from the seller to the buyer and ultimately to the AI. Print was really dictated by the sellers, the message they want to send out. Digital, the buyer had a little bit more input into it, and they can kind of search around and navigate where they want and maybe even interact with it. But now with artificial intelligence, the buyer has total control, and the AI can deliver personalized content based on the buyer's requests. So let's get back to MarTech. MarTech is the combination of marketing plus technology. Marketing at its core is to connect buyers and sellers, and technology just improves those connections, as we've seen through the internet. When you combine the two, you can provide a great experience at a massive scale online. Now, MarTech creates a balance of form and function. Traditionally, marketing has really just been about the form because the form factor was really static and for print. So it was really about how good can you make it look, but not really much with functionality. Now that you've added technology, you can make it interactive. So what it does is in the digital format, it can take that static form and applying it to content and channels, turn it from a form to a platform, which is a foundation, just like your political platform or software platform. It's a foundation to build upon. When you put a good balance of form and function together, you can create e-commerce, which is an interactive online experience to find, design, experience, and buy new homes online. Now, the one thing about putting this together, it creates a huge amount of data. And that is really the data gold that we're looking for. Because with that data, you can now feed the AI to provide a virtually assisted online shopping journey. Now, with MarTech, technology is really driving marketing. You remember in the old days, marketing and advertising is really driven by Madison Avenue up in New York City. Well, now it's all controlled by Silicon Valley because you can see Google, Facebook, and Amazon really drive the online shopping traffic. And ultimately, technology will also drive sales. And that's where an AI virtual assistant comes in. But this transition is going to be very difficult for our industry because we've traditionally been a tech laggard industry. But it's really not the marketing people's fault because, again, we started off with form, and the form factor was primarily print and just static websites. Marketing people are traditionally right brain. They're very creative. It's a very visual job. And what they're really doing is making an art of the science of a long, complex online shopping journey to buy new homes. What they've traditionally worked with is static content. And so they've come to us and others for renderings, virtual tours, and maybe in the future, augmented reality. Now, on the left side of your brain is where it controls the function. And that's the technology side of MarTech. It's really data driven. It's really making a science of the art of your beautiful dream home. And what it employs is interactive content using software. And therefore, you can have apps in your website, your sales center, your portal to let the buyers interactively design and price and even buy it online. And it also provides great insights on the back end. So you can see what your leads are doing. You get the analytics of it and maybe even gets the marketing and sales automation. The tricky part is combining that form and function together to create that platform for e-commerce. But the opportunity is bringing that left brain and right brain together to create the whole brain. And that is MarTech, which is really data driven visualizations. It really creates the brains and the beauty to make all this wonderful interactive smart content so the buyers can find, design, experience, and buy new homes online. But the next paradigm, which is the AI in brain, it takes that to an artificial intelligence level. So it's looking across terabytes of data and instantly pulling it all together to create an informed virtual assistant that can guide the buyers down an online shopping journey with up to date content, pricing, statuses, and interactions with the salespeople. The fundamental obstacle to this right brain, left brain form and function problem is that builders and buyers can't communicate with each other. Builders speak textually, they speak in data like real estate and construction terms. They know the specs for the house, they have all the processes in line, but consumers don't understand all the real estate and construction jargon. They speak visually. They don't know what it's called, but they know what they like when they see it. So that's the importance of visual communications. And that's why we have graphics and renderings and virtual tours for these unbuilt products. Now, traditionally, realtors served as a translator because between builders and buyers speak, a lot was lost in translation. But as more and more consumers are starting and finishing their new home shopping experience online, we needed to create a real time rendering engine, which is utilizing MarTech because MarTech speaks both textually and visually. It translates text to visuals. And then as the buyers interact and design their homes and price out their options, it now translates that back into textual specifications for the builders to build on. Now, let's talk about the exciting part of AI. AI being used as superhuman virtual assistants. Now, you may have heard about ChatGPT. GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. That's a lot of jargon, but basically the AI is continuously machine learning and acting from an ever-expanding neural network. That probably didn't help much, but let me break it down for you. It's almost has godlike qualities, which sounds pretty scary, but it's not sentient, meaning that it does not have self-awareness and does not have emotions, at least right now. So you may fall in love with your AI, but your AI is not in love with you. It's like a pet rock. Starting with the word generative equates to the word omnipotent, meaning all powerful. It's generative, and that means that it can create content in many different forms through text, through verbal conversation, even music, poetry, videos. So that power to create is obviously a superhuman strength. And with that power and that knowledge, it can now advise you and it can analyze terabytes of data instantly to give you the best advice and consulting. And if you decide to give it more power legally, it may be able to even initiate tasks for you, like schedule your events for the day, plan out your vacation, figure out the recipes and the menu for tonight's dinner. So It can do that. It can also initiate transactions so that you can make those orders and maybe even sign contracts. Now, the pre-trained piece relates to its omniscience. It's all knowing. And it's all knowing because it's able to learn from an LLM, which is a large language model, which right now is basically the internet. It's been studying the internet and it gets updates instantly now. So it knows all the events, it knows what's happening, and it knows how to interact with that data. But it's also learning. It's learning from all that data. It's learning from not just the data, but how people are interacting with that data, their shopping behavior. And so it's starting to predict actions. And that's what it really does in helping with conversations. It knows what the logical next word is in the phrase. And as it gets to know you, it becomes intuitive. It starts to understand your tendencies based on your profiles and your shopping behavior, your needs, your wants. And it's really there to service your needs. And that's why it's a great virtual assistant. The transformer piece of GPT relates to its omnipresence. It's a transformer in that it can take different modes of communication and then transform it into the way that you want to communicate. So you may want to take poetry and then turn it into a rap song. But part of that is because its omnipresence is well connected across many different databases. So it knows music, it knows social media, it knows current events from the internet. And with that, it can utilize this multimodal functionality, which is the ability to communicate in different formats, like I said, to now communicate with you and others. The other element is it can communicate very fast. And that ability makes it more natural and it's pervasive in many different applications, from your Word document to a video to a chat conversation to a interactive sales kiosk. So it's going to be everywhere and immediately available. What other person, much less advisor, is going to be with you 24/7 anywhere you need it? And so that's going to have broad implications for businesses and consumers. For business, business to business, B2B, but I would call it bots to business. The omnipotence gives it very productive workers. Omniscience gives it very smart, intelligent workers. And omnipresence gives it unlimited 24/7 productivity. It's relentless and um, doesn't complain. For consumers, very similar. It's a very efficient virtual assistant, very productive. It can even act on your behalf. It gives you very smart, intelligent advice and helps you achieve what you want because it's smart and it's available anytime you want it. And really for less than a penny for your thoughts. So who wouldn't want these superhuman workers or virtual assistants to work on their behalf? That's why it's such a major paradigm shift that will impact our lives and our livelihoods. Now, just take an example here to understand the difference between um, a chat GPT interaction versus a traditional Google search. Well, let's say you give ChatGPT this request. I have friends coming for dinner. One is gluten free, one has peanut allergies, and one doesn't eat pork. Create a full course meal with recipes. Also, I want a chocolate dessert. I need it prepared within 4 hours. Please order all needed ingredients from Instacart. So the difference between a chat GPT and a Google search is the chat GPT is really like a tutor. It's already read all those websites and is able to glean from all that the specific needs that you have and within your constraints to solve your problem and to actually initiate and take action. So, it says, I can definitely help you with that. Here's a full course meal with recipes that you can prepare within 4 hours. An appetizer, gluten-free, sweet and sour pork. Main course, peanut-free chicken Alfredo. Side dish, pork-free, roasted vegetables. Dessert, chocolate chip banana bars, gluten-free option. I hope this helps. Let me know if you need anything else. And then it can actually make that order to Instacart. Now, if you were just to use your traditional Google search, this really acts like a librarian. It looks up where that category of information, maybe cookbooks, are at, and it would direct you there to go look at it yourself, which are all these websites. Or maybe if it's good, it'll bring the websites to you And if you pay for it, maybe it'll put your cookbook on top. But you would have to go and read through all those to find the 3 or 4 items that match your requirements and your needs. And then it still can't even make the transaction. You would have to still do that. So traditional Google search is one, you'd have to search, first of all, make that request. Then, with all the website recommendations, research all those websites. And then, if you can't find it, you have to research again. Why do you want to go through that manual labor? By the time you figure it out, if it's even there, you already missed your dinner. So that's the big difference. AI is going to cut through the search process and just bring what you need to you when you need it. And now let's talk about how AI is going to totally transform the new home online shopping journey. It's going to do that by converging traditionally separate channels, search, social, and e-commerce, to create an end-to-end online sales journey. You may think about AI as kind of like the brain, which controls everything. It is the artificial intelligence. Before, there was nothing that was tying all these different channels and all those data sets together and basically following the consumer as it goes through all these different marketing channels. But now with AI being utilized in search engines, social media, and e-commerce, it's able to do that. Traditionally, the search engine has been dominated by Google, which does not use AI. But the search engine is used to attract an audience and then direct the traffic to a website. Now the AI is able to supplant that with a personalized conversation that is specific to the customer's unique needs and constraints, and then make recommendations in a conversational, open ended way. So that would supersede potentially search engines. AI is also being integrated by Facebook and other social media channels to now take the role of the engagement and influencer. So it can move the buyer further down the sales funnel and build a community of referrals and influencers. And then as you move further down the sales funnel toward the transaction, it's also created a platform called Bedrock, which is allowing its vendors to utilize AI to help in the e-commerce process. So with AI converging these three separate channels, it can move the buyer from attracting and directing them to engaging and influencing them to curating them and then ultimately to transacting online. So now let's see how AI is going to totally transform the traditional sales funnel. So let's go back to the print days. That is the traditional funnel that we are used to, upside down pyramid, but basically everything was done offline. So the builder had total control over the audience, the distribution, because they had a limited quantity of generic brochures or classified ads or yellow pages there to a specific targeted audience. So if they know they sent out 10,000 flyers, they expect 1,000 people to read it and maybe 200 people to actually go to the sales center. So marketing and sales had a pretty good flow. There was a lot of control, but it was a very limited audience and distribution. Now, present day, we use digital marketing. Now you have marketing using MarTech that is doing more and more online, but the sales team is still primarily on site and offline. So what's happening is now you created an unlimited online marketing opportunity because it can reach a wide audience, even international or beyond your original target scope. You don't know who's going to really see it and react to it. It could be even on social media as well as search engines. But then what happens is the salespeople don't have a good idea of who's coming, when they're coming, how they're coming. And you saw the detriment of that when demand exceeded supply in the midst of COVID. Specifically, online, people were searching, they're looking and to move into these homes. But then as they're shopping, the salespeople, which were also hindered by closed sales centers, couldn't anticipate or support the flood of online leads and prospects. So what ended up happening is the sales funnel ended up becoming an hourglass where MarTech was bringing in a lot of online leads, but sales became a bottleneck because sales couldn't handle it. And then they had to process those good, bad, and ugly leads. And that all led to a bad customer experience. And even though they had a broader audience, they end up with maybe lower sales conversions and lower customer satisfaction. Now, in the future with AI and e-commerce, what you're going to have is an unlimited online marketing and sales, because what will happen is AI will bring the salespeople further up in the sales funnel, because it's going to give them the capability to use AI to generate content, marketing content to reach the consumers at the top of the funnel. Before, marketing totally dictated what sales got, and sales was totally dependent upon whatever marketing passed them. So now with MarTech and sales tech, you're going to see the sales funnel compress, but it's going to eliminate that bottleneck. But it's also going to be wider, because AI is going to be able to reach across a wider audience, even international, using multimodal, whether it's conversational, text, search engines, conversations, and it can even translate languages. Also, customers so compress the sales funnel, because they can skip through hours and hours of website searches in navigation, because their AI will cut through all that and direct them to the best matches of builders, communities, and plans. So that will further compress the sales funnel. But hopefully, this will be a more efficient system, because it'll be more direct to consumer. The consumers will have a shorter journey and hopefully a more enjoyable customer journey. So, what's the formula for success? Well, it's really been the same for centuries. If you look at the domains in the past, the kingdom was the domain. And, obviously the king had all the power, but he had the power because he had the gold. And with his position and the gold, it equates to that tremendous power. Now, today, the domain is the website. So you have a website domain, and the content is king now. If you don't have good content, you won't get the attention. And now data is gold. Cash is usually the lifeblood of businesses, but for online businesses, data is the lifeblood. And it really could generate a lot of gold for the businesses. Combining content and data gives you great knowledge. And as you all know, knowledge is power. Now, with AI, you can take that domain to a bigger market, specifically a marketplace or a portal. And what happens is that content, to support that massive marketplace, instead of being manually created, it's now using AI to generate that content, and not just at a massive scale, but at a personalized level that resonates with each specific consumer. And so what happened is that data, that is not only the gold, is also used to now drive that generative AI. So the AI knows what to present and then what to create to satisfy the desires and the constraints of the consumers. And then as the AI gets smarter and smarter, and then this marketplace of thousands of builders, communities, and plans, and shopping behaviors and products, it becomes the de facto AI domain expert for that industry. So the formula for success in the AI world is really to be able to create great content using AI and data. So now that we know the formula for success, let's talk about how we apply that into an e-commerce environment, focusing on the buy cycle, pardon the pun, using the acronym PEDALS. So with the traditional search engine, with just generic and static content, you only have anonymous information about who the buyers are. But once you allow them to be able to interact with the content, you start to get a better picture of who they are. So that P is personalized interactive content. It's all about them. As they're interacting with that content, designing it, pricing it, sharing it, collaborating with it, it starts to drive engagement. And all that engagement, the E in pedals, is generating the D, the data, which is the gold that we're looking for to see exactly what the consumers are doing. And then that data feeds AI specifically. The AI is learning about the consumers' shopping behavior, their preferences, what they've clicked on, what they liked, what they favorited. And so now it can be a better virtual assistant and basically curate the L, the leads, to move them down an online sales funnel. As they become more and more curated, now you can use AI to help convert the sales and maybe facilitate the transactions online. All that information from Petals is now feeding the next group of prospects that are shopping online to give it an even better experience using AI. So, why is that buy cycle so important? Because I believe that we're selling more than a home, we're selling a great experience. What we're trying to do is sell people their dream home. But the reality is, the journey to get there is a nightmare. Home ownership fulfills all the needs in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, from the very basic physiological needs like food and shelter, to then safety, because that's your sanctuary, that's your castle, that's your safe place. To then the next level is a sense of love and belonging. I mean, that's where all your special memories and events are held. And that's where your family is. That's where you're really feeling the love and belonging to your community. And then the fourth level of needs is really feeling that esteem of, you've made it, you feel good that you've achieved a certain status and lifestyle. And then the ultimate need is self-actualization, that you've proven that you can do it and that you realize the American dream. So what we want to do is to elevate all those needs. But what happens is, in the journey to get there, we have to sell a great experience. And what we have to do is not just elevate the needs, but eliminate the things they detest. And there's a parallel to all those needs. And it starts with the customer journey. The physiological needs that people have starts off with the pain of starting the search. And the search is not just something that a person does by themselves. They may be doing it with their spouse or a co-buyer. And they're both having different journeys to get there, because not everybody's looking at the same things at the same time. I mean, you may have social media influences. You may be texting your salesperson. You may be going to the sales center, visiting websites, taking calls, going to the portal, marketplace, and everyone's having these crisscrossing customer journeys. And that painful experience starts the whole journey off. And then the next level, what we want is safety, but what they get is a lot of risk, because they can't see what they're getting. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know the process. And instead of achieving the need of love and belonging, they're getting a lot of neglect and isolation. Some of this stuff they're doing remotely on their own. They have no way of understanding, what to do. They have nobody just holding their hand along the way. They need some guidance. And so instead of achieving esteem, they're feeling great failure. Like they don't know what they're doing. They really can't do it. And then when they can't achieve their dreams, they really feel that feeling of futility. I give up. And maybe that's why, although 2/3 of the people are interested in buying new, just like new cars, new phones, new shoes, only 10 or 15% actually achieve the dream of buying a new home. And I believe that's because we fail at doing a good job of selling a great customer experience. So, interestingly, if you take those things that we detest and you flip it upside down, it actually shows our sales journey. This is where the sales funnel drop off stages are. And it parallels to what the seller's goals and the buyer's goals are. At the very beginning, the seller's goal is to attract an audience. The buyer's goal is to find their dream home. But the current process of going through hundreds of websites, one by one, you can't compare, you can't share, you can't collaborate. And it's just so painful, and it's always changing. So I bet you most people are actually dropping out of the process high in the sales funnel. And that's the biggest portion of that upside down pyramid. The problem is you don't even see that you're losing them, because they never even contacted you. They don't even know how to contact you. The next goal for the seller is to engage that prospect. And that's assuming they even found you. The buyer's goal there is, once they have found you, they want to start designing their new home, because it's not just buying a new home, it's buying their new home. But it's fraught with risk, because they're buying it sight unseen for one, but then they can't design and visualize what they want, much less see the prices and the monthly payments change as they choose different options. And they don't know which plans go with which home site to which options are available. So that whole design process is just frustrating and it's very risky. The next thing that the sellers want, if they got them down the sales funnel, is to really be able to curate that experience. And the buyers want a great experience as well, but they want to do this online because they started online. But because they don't have interactive content that they can manipulate, and they don't have a virtual assistant that can guide them at 2 o'clock in the morning, they often feel a lot of neglect and they feel a lot of isolation. They're basically on their own doing it sight unseen, and no one's available to help them along the way. And they can't really collaborate with their co-buyer because the technology doesn't allow them to instant message each other and design and enjoy the process. Now, the fourth level, if you're able to get them this far down the funnel, hopefully online, because more and more people want to continue a whole e-commerce process, the seller's goal is to obviously convert them into a sale. And accordingly, the buyers want the same thing. They want to buy your house. They want to buy their house. But because they can't do this online, they can't reserve it, they can't transact it, they can't price it, they can't sign it digitally online like everything else. It's just a lot of failure. Or if they want to succeed, it comes at a great cost of time and effort. It's just not a great customer journey. And ultimately, even if the seller does sell that house, what they really want to achieve is satisfaction for their customers, because those satisfactions lead to great reviews and ultimately a great brand and a lot of referrals, not just from the buyers, but from their realtors. And the buyer's goal is actually just happiness. They want to live that American dream. They want to achieve those goals and needs that they had aspired to. And when the whole process, frankly, sucks, they just feel like, hey, it was such a letdown in the experience, and maybe they don't want to do it again. So what you're doing is turning away future buyers because they don't want to go through that process again. What they remember is not happiness, but anger, frustration, disappointment. And so it's a sense of futility. So what we need to do is to stop all these sales funnel drops offs and start to utilize AI to improve this whole process online. So how do we make a better customer journey? We eliminate it. But in seriousness, it's a fallacy that customers want to go on a long customer journey. What they want is a great customer experience. But the reality is that they have to do Google searches of hundreds of website haystacks each day to look for that needle in the haystack of the home that they're looking for. And even if they can find it, they can't save it, they can't share it, they can't design it, they can't collaborate. And it's just a painful process. And they have to repeat that daily so they can keep track of all the ever changing inventory and plans. And if they are able to find a plan that they like, then they have to go through an Easter egg hunt of hundreds of constantly changing options and prices and designs. It's just too many moving parts and too many jigsaw pieces to put together for the average consumer. So what we need to do is create a new uber efficient new home marketing process. Buyers and builders can't efficiently find each other. Thus, new home sales really rely on two things: the buyer's determination to keep searching and the builder's ability to keep advertising. They're like two ships passing in the night. They can't find each other. So they really have to go the extra mile to meet up. And so what ends up happening is that frustrated buyers leave the new homes market to buy used. And unaware of departed buyers, builders increase their ad spend to attract lower quality or phantom buyers. They're really going after the people that are really desperate to find new homes. It's probably not their ideal client, or they're chasing things that don't really exist. And they're just spending more money at it. They just don't know any better. So what we need to do is switch from a customer journey to an Uber experience. We live in a world of instant access and on demand, whether it's your Amazon Prime delivery, Instacart, Uber pickup, or even Netflix movies. So what we need to do is go from a new home shopping quest to just request what you want. So the guiding principle is don't make me come to you. Bring your homes to me anytime, anywhere, and anyhow at the right time and in the right way. And this requires reverse engineering. The online sales funnel is the reverse of the offline sales funnel. Online brings the seller to the buyer instead of the buyer going to the seller. And how's this going to happen? Well, we're also making an evolution from Web 2.0, which we've been on for about 10 years, to now Web 3, along with the AI changes. And so this is going to change it from a centralized approach to a decentralized internet. And what happens in the centralized world, it's one for all. Basically, everyone draws from the same generic cloud database, and it's very data centric. It requires search engines, and it's really open to the public. Everyone has the same experience. So all the data is centralized. The buyers have to go to it, and then they do that by using keyword searches. In a decentralized approach, it's all for one, and that one is the customer. It's you. You are the center of the data universe, and it's very customer centric. It utilizes virtual assistants to gather that data for you, but it's a very private experience. So you are able to summon what you want by utilizing prompt conversations. And you're prompting your virtual assistants to go and gather the things that you want, whether it's visual or textual or music, and everything comes to you. So where does this all lead? Well, this all leads to the big dance versus the perfect dance. The current process today is using search engines, which really just brings everyone together. And search engines really a manual process where it's really a hit and miss. It's like my junior high dance. You have all the guys lined up on one side and all the girls on the other side. You really have to get up the energy and roll up your sleeves to go and ask a girl to dance. Now, that's a little bit like Google search. You put in a few keywords of what you're looking for there, and it gives you a whole bunch of websites to go visit. You don't know whether it's going to be a hit or a miss. I mean, you're going to have to go to each one and look into it, and then either find your dream or just waste your time. So really, the buyers are shopping the sellers. Now, the other aspect to it is you may be the one that's looking for someone to ask you out, but you're also picky about who it is. So you may be, as a seller, putting out a lot of ads for people to ask you to dance. But sometimes the people that you want to click on you are not the ones that you really want as a client. So you've actually wasted their time, you wasted your money, and you're probably missing out on the ones that you really want to ask you to dance. So there's this big mismatch sometimes with the search engine. It's really a manual hit and miss process by both the buyers and the sellers. So on the other side here, you have a marketplace to create the perfect dance. And that utilizes AI to match and notify the buyers and the sellers of a good match. And so what it does is like a match.com for houses instead of spouses. The buyer puts in what their wish list is for their home, community, and builder. And the builder puts in what their wish list is for their ideal client. And using AI, it matches those criterion with each other. So the buyers are shopping the sellers, and the sellers also get to shop the buyers. And there's less wasted energy, money, and time. And that's an ideal, perfect dance for everyone. And so the result of this is now the builders can shop their shoppers. And instead of paying per click for a lot of click throughs that may be undesirable leads, they can now pay per lead, which is really pay for performance. You don't waste money on anybody you don't want. And you get to now choose as a builder who you want to pursue. It does this by utilizing me scores, and the me scores are match and engagement scores. And if you look on this chart here, the match scores between 0 to 100, same thing with engagement score from 0 to 100. And based on the total weighted score, I mean, your leads will fall into one of these four quadrants. On the bottom left is an ugly lead. They have a low match and a low engagement score. So what do you do in that case? You hand off that lead. You don't want to dance with that person. You pass that off to your competitors. And so how much you want to pay? You want to pay nothing. What you want to do is redirect that lead. Your trash is someone else's treasure. That helps you out. It helps them out. It actually eliminates your competition by keeping them busy. And maybe they can reciprocate with their bad leads, which are your good leads. Now, the next quadrant on the right bottom is the bad lead. They're a low match. They're not a good fit for you, and you're not a good fit for them. But it's a high engagement. That means they keep knocking on your door. They're begging you to sell to them, but they have all these contingencies. They want to negotiate with you all the time. And, they don't have a good match. But what could happen there is you can take the lead and you gently guide that prospect your way. So maybe you don't have exactly the house they want, but maybe in a different community or a different price point or a different lot or with different options, you can satisfy them. So it ends up being a good match. And if they're already in love with you, and so maybe you'll pay a little bit for that lead. Now, in the upper left quadrant, those are good leads. They are a high match. They're a high match for you and for them. But the problem is they have a very low engagement. They're not going to go and knock on your door. They're kind of passive or shy. So what you want to do there is you want to cut in on that dance. Basically get your best wingman salesperson to sweep them off their feet. And maybe you'll pay a little bit more for that lead, because if they can only engage with you, they will probably buy from you. On the upper right quadrant is the great lead. They're a high match and a high engagement score. So what you don't want to do is step on their feet. I mean, they're basically on autopilot. They're doing all the stuff online. You don't have to get too involved. You just let them take the lead, and you'll pay a premium for that because you don't have to spend much on them. Heck, you may even save money on commissions and other costs. So what you want to do there is, looking at all of these different quadrants here, you want to push the bad and the good leads toward the upper right great lead. Okay, and that's through a combination of gently guiding them and also using your salesperson for the appropriate client. The ugly leads, you just push them aside. And on the right there, you can see an example of a chart that shows you the engagement score over time, because you can't just look at a score at a point in time. You want to see how they're trending. Are they trending toward you or against you? And then you will dance with them accordingly. So here we are at the end, and it's really shopping with your virtual assistant. I mean, at the end of the day, like we talked about, there's different domains. You are at the top of the food chain. You are the domain master. You're the master of your domain, and you're the buyer. In this new world, you may have a virtual assistant, and that virtual assistant is probably an AI general domain expert. They're the ones that kind of have access to all these different databases and has a good general knowledge. Now, once in a while, you may tap into an AI specialist. Those AI bots specialize in, say, law or accounting or real estate, and you may pull them into your process as you need to. But your general domain expert, your virtual assistant, say it's ChatGPT, can have a plug-in to these, what I call industry domain experts. And for us, we call her Sophie, because it's like our buyers. They're sophisticated women generally. And What happens is your virtual assistant would talk to our industry domain expert, which is Sophie, who also has access to all the builders' websites, to the brokerage data, and maybe MLS as well. So it's actually an expert and has access to its industry content to now serve up to the general virtual assistant what you need and basically manage that process. The good thing about having this separation of powers is Sophie has all the connections. She has all the digital access to things. She has all the analytics. And she has all the detail, and she has the trust of its partners and suppliers. So the general assistant only needs to participate at the level that the buyer understands. You let the industry AI handle all the details. So basically, in that situation, the AIs are talking to each other. Just have your assistant speak to mine. So that's basically how I envision an AI virtual assistant working in the near future. And hopefully now, when you hear about this AI PropTech revolution, you're not scared off because the bots aren't coming. The bots are here. So let's utilize them to our advantage.